Hello, children, gather round, gather round. I have some stories to tell. So take a seat. Yes, you, Jimmy, you. Uh, let's get into it. So I might have said this before, but I quit my job last year and I started going to school full time to get a different degree and hopefully change my life, which I probably am not really doing. Anyways, this last December, I was applying for jobs like a madman. I was applying to every single job that was open on Google search, and the only in-person interview I got went pretty bad. So this might come as a surprise, but I am linguistically fucking stupid. I can't form sentences, but at this interview, I was doing okay, surprisingly well. I was forming my sentences. There was a subject, there was a verb, everything you learned from fourth grade, because most of you are still in fourth grade. Anyways, this was a coding interview. My degree was in computer science, and I was looking for a job in software development. And I was doing okay on the first portion, which was just a general interview, and then we got to some technical questions, like how would you test an ATM machine to see if it was working properly. It was weird, not having anything to do with code. And then I could tell one of the guys wasn't really into it, and it made it more obvious when he sent a text message to the other interviewer, and there was some application that popped up on his screen with the text message that was sent to him from my other interviewer that said something like, "Can we skip the coding portion? I am falling asleep." I wouldn't have even really noticed if it wasn't for the interviewer getting super awkward and fidgeting in his chair when the notification popped up on the screen. So if you could imagine, I was pretty shooken up and tilted for the rest of the interview, but I managed to get through the coding portion and answer it correctly. But it still filled me with doubt when I was leaving the building and heading home that night, and I just ended up going to bed at 7 p.m. that night because I was feeling distraught. But to my surprise, I ended up getting an acceptance letter the following Monday, which I turned around and accepted like a dumbass. It's what I do. And that's the job I'm currently working at. I've been there for a month. And I moved to Denver. I've been sleeping on my friend's couch in his living room. We plan to move to a 2-bedroom together in March, so I might be bringing painting back then. Enough of that, though. Let's get into some of the weird stuff that's been happening to me. I started December 26th, so the following week was New Year's Eve. I didn't have any plans. I didn't really know anyone in Denver, except for my one friend who asked me over text if I wanted to go to the Avalanche game that night. And I said, sure. And then I received a message from my mother about an hour later it was telling me that they were coming to pick me up at 5:45 p.m. For dinner. And if you knew my mom, you knew that I couldn't just turn her down because she would throw a fit. She would be very angry with me for years to come for breaking this dinner plans that I don't even remember agreeing upon because they were driving all the way up to Denver to come take me out. So I ended up turning my friend with box seats at the Avalanche game down to go to dinner with my family. But around 5:20, I looked back at my phone, reread the text message, and that's when I realized she probably didn't intend to send that to me and send it to my sister. I ended up calling her, and she said that was the case. And I immediately called my friend back because he had already left for the Avalanche game, asking if I could meet him at the door. But that's when he told me he had already given all his tickets away. So that was New Year's. And now we're moving on to following weekend. Mom texted me about my grandma. She's in bad conditions. She's spitting up blood. She says that she doesn't have that many days to live, or so she says. So I ended up packing up some stuff, and I was going to head home for the weekend, and I was going to run by her hospice place to see how she was doing. I ended up getting to her place alone. I was super nervous because I never really had to deal with someone's dying before, especially going in alone. Um, so I took a second in the vestibule right before the main lobby, just pacing back and forth because I thought the glass on the doors separating the lobby from the vestibule were like foggy and they wouldn't be able to see me, but the dumbass I realized after I walked in the lobby that they could clearly just see me walking back and forth like a dumbass. So I signed in at the front desk. I headed up the stairs towards the room. My hands super sweaty. My heart was pounding. I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought she might be hooked up to a machine or something. She would be in like a bad mood, just in tears. But then I walked in. I was knocking on the doors and turned the corner, and there she was, like she usually is, on her hospice bed, just kind of sleeping. So I knocked on the walls to wake her up, and she looked at me. She says, "Yes, what do you need?" I don't think my grandma really knows who I am anymore. I think she just recognizes the face and shoots out the one question related to that face, which is, "Are you going to college?" Which I always say yes, because she's going to forget in the next 5 seconds. She had a football game on. She probably didn't put it on herself. And she invites me to go sit down on her chair. And I do, and I watch TV for about 15 seconds. I look back at her, and she's already asleep. And she's doing this weird moaning thing in her sleep where she's picking her nose and just moaning like, So I knocked on the wall to wake her back up after like 20 seconds. And she asked me once again, "What do you need?" And I'm like, "I'm just here to see you, just see how you're doing." And she's like, "Oh, I'm doing good." And she's not. But I was just like, "Well, just wanted to check up on you." And then I told her I loved her. And she reached out her hand. And I shook it. And she said, "All right." And then I left. So nothing really out of the ordinary. She's crazy. Her mind's gone. She's suffering from bad dementia. I ended up going to my parents' home to spend the night and to talk about what's going on. They ended up telling me that my dad and uncles were in town to get her to sign a DNR, which, in my opinion, is kind of a selfish thing to do to make that decision for someone that clearly their mind isn't there and they can't really make the decision on their own. But whatever. That was that weekend. The next week, so last week, was the first week that I sat with my software development team. Before that, I was in training for like 3 or 4 weeks. And my role on that team is to make test code that tests all their software functionality. And I sat next to this person. The only person I sat next to was this girl who I'd only seen like a few times because she would come and go pretty often. One day I asked her to go to lunch with me because no one ever went to lunch with me. And that's when I found out she was having the same title as me. So she was a software developer in test. And she was originally hired to do UI work, so front end, how the application would look to a user. But they moved her into this position of writing automated tests, but then they never actually taught her how to write the automated test. So she ended up just doing manual QA of like going to the website URL and manually clicking buttons to see if they worked. And she told me she's been doing that for like a little more than a year, which is fucking insane. That you would even be there after they moved you positions that you didn't even want to be in the first place. And then the fact that they just never taught you anything it just blew my mind. And now I'm worried that I might be in a similar position where they might not actually have me writing automated tests, and it just might make me manually click buttons all fucking day. And I might have to start looking for a new job. But look, that's besides the point. I just wanted to share everything that was going on in my life up until now. I don't know. It just feels like I'm super unlucky in a lot of things. So much that it can't just be me, right? It seems like God is just picking me out of a crowd and like dropping his pants every day and just unloading on my head on a day-to-day basis. But that's probably just me complaining. I'm just being a whiny little bitch. But I figure I should tell you like the meaning behind the title to the video and the beautiful clip art I've made. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you guys are doing good, and I hope we get these epic gaming moments in 2019. Yeah,